Fantastic. Looks like we are now live, and I'm really excited to do the session with you because I've got so many questions from students. Some saying, "What is ChatGPT?" Others saying, "Well, is this unethical? Can I use it? How can I not use it? I've heard it gives inaccurate results. I've heard it can save a lot of time." So, those of you coming to this session, if you don't know anything about ChatGPT, you're going to walk away more informed about what it is. You're also going to walk away informed about what the potential, the power is of it, the hope and promise of it. I have to say, at the beginning, I was very skeptical about the use of AI, but you're going to see that I'm starting to come around and be much more convinced about the ways to use it. But there are some improper ways to use it, and I don't want you to get in trouble or get inaccurate or false information. And so I'm also going to give you what's emerging as things not to do with ChatGPT, so you don't fall into some of those common pitfalls that can get you into hot water in your research. And just to step back for a second, one of the things with ChatGPT, that an analogy that's really stuck with me is about chess. And I'm sure you're all aficionados of chess, but and it's one of my nerdy pleasures. Sorry about that. But basically, back in it was with Gary Kasparov, a very famous chess player who was #1 Russian chess player in the world. Went through a series of famous chess matches with artificial intelligence engines. And it was really, if I'm not mistaken, in the 90s, which was the first time that humans could not beat artificial intelligence. And that was the 90s. You can only imagine today that it's completely hopeless for humans to take on an AI-powered chess engine. And so what's begun to happen is that instead chess players have developed a symbiotic relationship with AI rather than opposing it like they did at the outset, that this is threatening us. They said this can be a really effective learning tool so that we can improve our game, so that we can become stronger players. And then the quest was on to try to understand AI, explain it, and incorporate things that could be beneficial. That's broadly, I think, about the right principle and way to think about it in your research. This is not going to replace you, but it can be an incredibly effective tool that you can begin to think of ChatGPT as a low-cost virtual research assistant. So to give you a rundown, I'm going to give you the headline messages on the do's and don'ts. I'm going to say, do use ChatGPT to help you find a gap, help you make an outline, and help you edit. Don't use GPT to make a first draft, to find citations, references for a literature review or anything else you're doing, and don't use it to try to help you structure your submission to journals. And broadly, that falls along the lines of, in a research project in its life cycle, where can you benefit potentially from some high-end, high-touch research assistance and checks on your work, and where do you really need to have that human effort to do your original work with no threat or no questions ever being asked to the originality and integrity of what you're doing. So I promised this was going to be an interactive session. I don't want to lecture at you. I don't want to tell you things. I want to show you things. So what I've got here is, and fingers crossed, sometimes with ChatGPT is a problem getting in. So fingers crossed we'll be able to access it. Often I've noticed a pattern when the US wakes up on time zones, ChatGPT is not accessible. So fingers crossed this is here. It's working before. Now, the newest iteration of ChatGPT is version 4. This is going to evolve by the time some of you are watching this on the replay. It might even be out of date, but that's what we're going to be using here. So what am I saying on GAP? Okay, and if you guys want to volunteer some of your topics and tell me kind of what you're interested in, if you're at that stage, you're still trying to figure out your research, pop that in the chat or mention it here and we'll cover that. I might pick on some of the topics that some of you are interested in. I mean, Handy, who's been really friendly to our group and doing a big enough job of supporting you all together with me. And I'm picking you because I know you're doing some things around social welfare policies and programs and children's well-being. So the way I would prompt this into ChatGPT is simply to ask. ChatGPT is going to really vary the way you prime it for what you get. So let's say, what are current, and when I say current, the other limitation ChatGPT is it's only been trained on data up to 2021. That will change. So this is a limitation for looking for a gap with ChatGPT. It might not, if you have a field that's rapidly evolving and hot, it might not help you find what you need. But this can give you some good clues. Current research gaps on how social welfare policies impact well-being of children. Okay, let's see what this comes up with. I'm going to check the chat and say, oh, okay. And ChatGPT is getting a lot better about saying my knowledge cut off. So I might not be able to do that. And Ikechi, I believe, sorry if I'm getting your name wrong, was interested in impact of computer vision on quality control. So we're going to come to that in a second. So this is pretty fun. And Handy is here. I don't know if you can see Handy laughing, but Handy and I early on in her project scoped out potential gaps. And gap number one that I came out with is Handy. What was your systematic review just on?
It's the long-term impacts of paid parental leave on children's well-being.
Yeah, I mean, that's almost just, this is what I'm saying about ChatGPT, which is like, I mean, I get goosebumps. I'm just struck by this. This is kind of high value effort and undertaking that Handy and I undertook together to scope out a really good research project. And that is a top, I mean, ChatGPT came up with that in about 30 seconds.
Actually, heterogeneous impacts was also something that we talked about before.
Was that right? We didn't have universal versus targeted policies.
No, we had heterogeneous impacts and long-term.
We had heterogeneous and long-term. Yeah, that's right. That's right. And now we have more heterogeneity on some of the outcomes as well. I know that's something that you're focusing on. But look at this. I mean, there's a lot more. And well, here, mental health outcomes focuses on physical and more mental health. So, okay, maybe I spoke too soon. It's still getting there. I mean, you suddenly have here 9 research gaps that you can dig into. And you can, I often encourage students I'm working with to rank the research gaps to try to figure out what's going to be the most feasible, what's going to be the most interesting for them. There are different ways to think about which gap is right for you to try to make inroads on. But this is a pretty comprehensive response. I'm pretty interested in, by the way, this thing on the different measures of well-being, that's also something quite relevant. And sometimes so what am I saying is this can serve as a really nice way to check your gap, because it may bring to light things you didn't think about, different avenues to think about, that may help you as you go kind of plant the seeds of your search that you want to grow into a beautiful, lovely, wonderful plant that flowers. It can also be a way for you to even pivot and change course. It can bring to light things you didn't think about. So you can be a check, make you feel pretty confident. This makes me feel pretty confident that I already felt confident. Now I feel more confident that we were on the right track. But again, it may fuel some creativity. So this is the first do. I do recommend using ChatGPT to, at the very beginning stage of your research, to check out your gap. And I've got some questions in the comments. And Atif here is saying the gap. Atif is saying, yeah, Atif, do you mind sharing that with us, what you're saying here too? I don't know if Atif, you're still with us.
Yeah, may I speak? Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the gap which I found after 1 month by scanning all the papers by myself in a manual way. I also cross-check it with ChatGPT. It was same.
It was the same. Came up with the same gap here in just a few seconds. So yeah, thanks for sharing that, Atif. And I'll cover your question about free and plus version here in a second. But that's really kind of the incredible, powerful thing about this, is it can save you so much time in these ways as an assistant in finding a winning gap. And that's one of the most important things as a researcher you need to get right at the beginning. So many students I talk to or work with come midstream and they're going in circles, and it really traces back to the original sin of not having a clearly defined gap, and with that, a clear research question of what you want to undertake. So Ikechi, in yours, again, starting things out, the impact of computer vision on quality control. So here's an example of what Ikechi wants to do, and I'll pop that here. I'm just going to copy and paste it in. Impact of computer vision on quality control. I'm curious to see what ChatGPT is going to say here, but computer vision, I'm not sure what you mean. Now, this might be a specialized computer science term. I don't know if that what that means. Quality control, I don't know what that means either. So I'm curious to see how ChatGPT responds to that. It might ask, okay, so here we go. Computer vision, a field of art. Okay, something that I didn't know. So this is going to give me some background on it, and then we'll ask for a gap. Okay, so this is a technical term in your field that it automates an inspection process. Okay, that's pretty cool. So I mean, I'm learning about some things here. I'm going to stop generating. This is obviously here. I want to get to what quality control is, to make sure that that's all clear and coherent. So hang on a second. This is going to take too long. So here's ways in which it has impacted quality control. So, okay, Ikechi, I think I spoke too soon. This looks like by quality control is pretty well defined in different ways, and these different themes of quality control. This is effectively, without even prompting it, generating a literature review for you, which, as I said before, I don't want you to do, and I'm going to explain why. That said, if you want to use this as a background check on what you're doing, it can potentially be useful. I'm going to stop generating here, though. So here's what I want to do. I want to ask the same question that we had asked with Handy. So what is a current gap in the research on the impact of computer vision on quality control? Really simple, really straightforward. All of you should be able to do something like this in your topic. Interestingly, ChatGPT remembers I already gave you this caveat about research gaps. I'm not going to give you that again. So part of the way ChatGPT is operationalized is it thinks and it operates so we're having a conversation together. So here we go, Ikechi. These are, and Ikechi, kind of curious about your reactions here. Are any of the things that is coming up with here things that you've been scoping out or were of interest or relevant to you? And actually, I think Ikechi may have left the call.
No.
Oh, are you?
I'm
You're there.
right
You're there.
here.
Okay, so, cool.
Yes.
Yeah. Are these things you've been coming up with? Are these things interesting to you? So your area is quite specialized and not fully in my wheelhouse, although it would take me about a few minutes to get up to speed. Yeah.
Yes, the results are very valid. Yes. So the results are
they're valid,
yes.
you're saying. Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. But yeah, I mean, some of these things here are quite technical, handling occlusions, complex geometries, variability in data quality. So yeah, that can make sense if they're taking in images and trying to process them. That I'm going to stop doing this, but I hope you can see and hope this is all clear. Here we have explainable AI. A few students working in that space. This seems like it has some really important impacts in the healthcare setting, which is an area a lot of our students like to work in, also in education. But I'm going to stop generating here, Ikechi. You get the idea. All of you should be able to do this with your topic. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
So that's the first two. Now the first don't that I said is to write a first draft. And this is what I don't want you to do. So say draft a literature review on the impact of computer vision, and I can't spell, computer vision on quality control. This is what I don't want you to do. Why? Because there are too many detection systems that are going to notice that this is plagiarism. It's too easy. It's effectively asking the same way chess players do. Chess players figure out who's been cheating by using chess AI engines to ask, did an AI engine make these moves? They're too good. They're too high quality. And they can detect it. So this is so easy to be sniffed out. The other problem that you're going to run into is that when you do a literature review, you're going to need references. You're going to need citations. You're going to need to back up with evidence what you're saying. And so, look, you're getting things that are well written and clear, but are going to get you in a lot of hot water. So don't do this. So you can see what you're going to get. And I can see the temptation. Some students are like, well, I'll just have it write a literature review. I'm going to copy and paste that in. Strongly advise against that. The other thing that's come out is some of the references that come out here. It's terrible references. For some reason, ChatGPT has been making up references. Don't ask me why. That might get fixed in successive versions, but don't want you to blindly rely on that. I think this is a big mistake. Don't fall into that temptation. I'm going to ask, did you make up those references? Let's see what it says. Yes. I mean, yes, I generated those references to illustrate and format the structure of literature. They're not real citations. So imagine if you just blindly copied and paste this in, you're going to have massive egg on your face. At least ChatGPT is honest. Like, hey, I just made stuff up. But guys, you don't want to run the risk of, oh, well, AI made stuff up for me. This is really, really bad. So I hope that makes sense. Hope that's really clear. Okay, I'm gonna go. Any questions, guys, so far? Here, I'm gonna put you back and see if we can change the view so I can see all of you. Questions so far? All clear. Okay, I guess that's good. But you're all there with me, following along. Good. All right. So we got something in the chat. Oh yeah, Tiff, you wanted to know the difference between free and plus. So plus is going to give you a little bit more stable access. They're going to prioritize you having bandwidth on your version. The free version also has some different aspects. You have some choice between different models. ChatGPT, one that prioritizes speed versus in conciseness, versus one that prioritizes maybe depth and might be a little bit slower. So you can configure a few things. Again, that space is really going to evolve. What I want is for you guys to understand the broad principles. In my test, I haven't seen a huge difference between free and plus, to be honest, in the way that I'm recommending that you use it. So for the vast majority of you, I would recommend the free version, unless you're going to end up using it heavily and you need to have access to it more around the clock. Then consider the plus. There is an investment associated with that. Okay. Second thing you can do with ChatGPT, I'm really big on this, I think it's incredibly important, is to make an outline. So coming back to this computer vision example, and thanks again to Ketchy for sharing it with us, do this instead. Write an outline for a literature review using ChatGPT. Using ChatGPT. Why am I doing that? Write outline for a literature review on computer vision, the impact of computer vision on quality control. Right. Okay. This is going to be much more efficient for you as a starting point, because it's not going to start making up random stuff and citations. It's not going to be giving you evidence or populating a literature review with things that might not make any sense, but it is going to help you highlight themes that are important in your area that it's found from looking at its vast reservoir of past knowledge. And it's going to create structure. And those are two things that a lot of students, not just students, professors, anyone really struggles with to get right, that can lead them going into circles in their work. So check this out. It will give you some ideas here. Background on quality control, purpose and scope of the literature review. This might be a starting point for you. Right? It's still helpful to know some principles about what needs to be in an introduction, such as why are we having this conversation now? And it's kind of hinting at that it's important. What's going on with quality control, and how computer vision can help. So it's not going to substitute all your thinking, but it can give you a way to proceed. And then what I would do from here is I would go into Google Scholar, for example, because this would be for a literature review that's maybe not a systematic review, and start searching for these things. So I would then Google Scholar, image processing techniques, quality control, deep learning, neural networks, quality control, and start putting some meat on this outline and slotting the different things that I find in each of these areas. So I would what would I do? I'll show you an example here. I would take a Word document. I would copy and paste this over. Okay, it's pretty long. Copy and paste this. And then I would get serious about, I'm going to actually paste this in a different way. I'm going to paste this as unformatted. There we go. It's a little bit easier to work with. Then what am I going to do? I'm going to go into my Chrome browser. Let me see if I can open a new window. Okay, here we go. I'm going to go into Google Scholar and go here. And just like I was saying, we're going to say, okay, let's take deep learning, neural networks, quality control. Just pop that search in here. And now I'm going to start using things like I've talked about before, using a strip method. I'm going to identify the things that are interesting start taking this and maybe plugging that out, pop your citation into your reference manager, or drop that in here. I'm just going to do this now as an example. So put that here. I've got this. Okay, and then I might put a little strip summary, right? I'm going to write some stuff here. They found neural networks did X, Y, and Z, right? This same formula for literature review applies. What did they do? What did they find? And you flesh this out. You may find later that you got to change these headings. You need to go in a different route. Some things you might find I don't really need. I want this benefit section to be somewhere else. I don't really want to talk about enhanced traceability. But that's, you might say it's too long, it's too short, you have a word length. You actually can also go back and adjust this and say, for example, if I want to say to ChatGPT, let's say I want to specify that can be written, and that can be written in under, say, 1,500 words. Let's see what it comes up with then, and if it changes it. Because you can do more to specify ChatGPT. And it's interesting too, it's not replicable. So if you ask it the same question twice, you can get different answers, which is also something for research purposes that limit some of its use. As a lot of the researchers I work with know, replicability is really a key feature and really privileged in science to make something believable to others. That means that Eris can do something and then Noor can check it, and Noor can be like, yep, I got the same answers as Eris. Did the same steps Eris did, got the same conclusion. ChatGPT, you won't always get it that way. And that's why getting it to do research for you can be deeply problematic. So here, as you can see, done in this way, it has condensed the literature review into something more manageable. So maybe a bit less thorough. You can see what did it do? It truncated off some of the benefits, truncated off some of the techniques, and collapsed it. So again, get in that conversation with ChatGPT to get exactly what you need. And an outline is a good way to go for a literature review. Okay, guys, as ever, any questions on that, pop that in the chat. I'll be sure to cover that for you. Okay, so the second don't we actually came up with as we went along the way. The second don't was to not rely on ChatGPT for citations and the evidence in these sections of your literature review. So you need to go instead and use a search engine. Could be Google Scholar, could be Web of Science, could be PubMed, whatever you're doing, to go find those citations to power and back up and corroborate these themes that you're highlighting here. You're not going to be able to blindly rely on ChatGPT to back up these themes or to flesh them out in a first draft for you. So yeah, just don't succumb to that temptation. Now, supposing you have had this outline and you have put together a first draft of a manuscript, and say you're worried about your writing, maybe English isn't your first language, you're going to get to the third powerful thing you can do with ChatGPT that I recommend, which is to use it as your own copy editor. It's like before you could hire an academic writer. Now you've just got ChatGPT at your fingertips. Let me show you what I mean. So one person in our group, Mercy, sent me a copy of her paper, her manuscript she's been working on. And I wanted to do a test. So I wanted to look at this on how am I going to edit this myself. And you can see she's got a couple different titles she's playing with. Her supervisors and others have been giving her comments and track changes. I can look at this paper and I can see there's things that just really don't fit with academic language. For example, remains a big quagmire, not really in the tone of academic writing. And this can be really hard for people to spot and see. So it's not really precise about what's going on with detection. The other things it has, that the writing is not really as efficient as it could be. You have limited space in an abstract. So I would combine some things and make things clearer. There's certain things that are a little bit off as well. I can spot from the abstract. A response rate of 100% seems remarkably high, and it's going to raise questions in your reviewers that you've described this accurately. So some of those substantive things you can't really count on ChatGPT to spot, right? Again, it's not going to do the research for you. It's not going to engage with substantive questions very effectively. I'll show you a prompt in a second on how you can try to get it to do that, but not entirely. So I'm just going to use this abstract as an example. And here's a conclusion saying the prevalence of mental disorders is prevalent. That's not particularly helpful, right? So need a little bit more data. So let's pop this in and see what it comes up with. I'm not going to put the title. Okay. And I'm just going to be very human and be polite. Please edit this abstract of an academic manuscript for clarity. The manuscript is aiming to be submitted. I'm going to make up a journal to BMC Public Health. So it's going to basically look at a process that I encourage a lot of students to do, of a nearest neighbor match, look at a lot of papers in the journal, see a style, and get as close to that style as possible. So use that style for reference if possible. Okay, so I'm going to put this here, and then I'm going to copy. Oh no, shoot. Stop. Please provide abstract text. Yeah. Oh no. So let's do this again. I was trying to put it on the abstract on a different line, but it didn't work. So let me come back and pull this up. And nope, that's not what I want. Here we go. Copy. And it's also going to clean up some typos, like I said. So that's pretty valuable. Oops, that's not what we want. Where are we? Here we go. Okay. Let's see what we get. This is going to take a second. Okay. I already like this very clear title. I like that. This is much clearer in describing what the gap is than what was there before, and is motivating the cross-sectional study. Great. Yep, this is solid. That looks pretty good. See, and it combined here in the methods. It made this first, how I said it was not written efficiently. Fixed that. Socio-demographic information collected. Yeah, nice. This is still something that really bothers me. These numbers are just too round. This doesn't look good. Okay, it's describing the findings more technically, more precisely. I'm curious what it's going to come to on the conclusion. Again, this is perfectly ethical because it is editing your work. Now, there are open questions about, do you need to declare that ChatGPT helped edit the manuscript? I'm of the opinion that the answer to that is yes. That if you had a medical writer help you, you should declare that you hired a writer to help you. As said, not everybody does it. So that is completely up to you, although I am always on the side of transparency, and that's what I recommend. But look here, it's really patched up the conclusion. Now, I didn't say the prevalence is prevalent. It said it was notably high, and it specified the population. And it said also a recommendation for future research. Even if it's a little vanilla and generic for my liking, we haven't given it really enough data in what we've copied in to improve that. So this is cleaned up. I mean, I would still have to touch up some things. I still have to do some things to help Mercy on the science and things that I worry about. I would want confidence intervals around this. Right, those things ChatGPT can't really do, but I can copy edit. So, for example, say, can you please make suggestions to anticipate what potential reviewer criticisms there could be of this abstract? And this is where I don't think it's going to do that well. Okay, well, fair enough. It's doing a little bit better than I thought. So, yep, it's saying here sampling method. It's not really. It is a problem. It doesn't say how these people were recruited at all. It's really a problem, and representative of the patients at the outpatient department or representative of the underlying population. Those things are kind of unclear. And I do like that ChatGPT is explaining why that's important to have that clarity. Yeah, exactly. This is also good. Okay, so these kinds of things are not terrible. So again, like I said, this is in that principle that you can use ChatGPT as a check on your work. That can be pretty good. It's not going to be able to do this stuff for you, right? You're going to have the stuff about the statistical analysis and tests, but like in identifying the gap, this can give you ideas. And I do think it can be a good idea as a fourth potential things to anticipate those reviewer criticisms. One thing you always want to do is be as bulletproof as you can going into a journal submission. So some of these things, yeah, maybe don't need, you won't maybe be able to deal with all of these. This is a great point. This clear definition of terms that's using psychiatric and mental disorders interchangeably, which might cause confusion. It's a really good tip. It's really important. Discussing the confounding factors also important. So this is pretty good. And look, it's still in the conversation focusing on BMC public health. And it's done that by scanning all the abstracts of BMC public health to figure out what ingredients need to be in there. It probably won't have data on reviewer critiques because I don't know where I would find those. They're probably private with the journals, but that's pretty helpful. Okay, guys, any questions about that? Do let me know. And I'm gonna get to a third don't, and that's gonna be our final don't, and that is don't really use this to submit to a journal. Don't use this to identify which is the right journal. Don't use it to identify who are potential reviewers. So again, it's not really good at that. Say, can you identify potential reviewers for this submission who would be sympathetic, right? That's what you want to do in identifying reviewers. Can you also identify potential alternative target journals? Let's see what it comes up with. And I'll ask it in a second about a cover letter. Yeah, okay, it's going to give us a caveat. And it's going to give us general guidance on reviewers. And I think what it's going to do is make up reviewers again. Okay, so it's going to give you some tips on how to find potential reviewers. Fair. Okay, you can use ChatGPT as a learning tool, and that's pretty important, pretty valuable. And it's one of the uses I really do recommend. This is going to be a bit slow, but yeah, so it's giving you good tips. So if you guys are submitting for the first time, this is a helpful process, a helpful flow. It's the kinds of things that you would get working one-to-one with a mentor. Here's some alternative target journals. So these are okay. I'm not crazy about these because that paper has more an international focus than these journals do. I don't think these are good fit journals at all, honestly. Maybe no, these aren't good fit journals. Again, it's just not there yet. So that doesn't work. This is really kind of vanilla advice because when you recommend a reviewer, you need somebody who you think is going to be sympathetic. So yeah, it's not doing a good job of identifying reviewers at all. And it says, can you draft a cover letter? And the cover letter is also going to be, I suspect it's going to be problematic. Let's see what it comes up with. Okay, so good. And yeah, so this is just already kind of, you have this in the title and then it's repeating it again. With your cover letter, you need to get straight to the point, catch the editor's attention about what the big finding is that's going to make it relevant to their audience. And this is, let's see if it says why. And it just is quite generic. Now it's going to say things, but it's quite generic. You can try to ask this. You can reframe it and you can try to tweak ChatGPT to give you what you want. You can say, okay, can you rewrite that letter to get the main message up front to increase the likelihood the paper gets sent out. So I'm going to redo that and see if that helps. But by the time that's been done, cover letter this short, you could have written yourself. So I still would take the principle, draft your own cover letter, and then get ChatGPT to improve it for you. And we don't know this, if it's the first of its kind in the region. Maybe. We need to be sure about that. This is kind of some vanilla text. I usually don't put that in there because they don't care about that. That's already declared in the submission process. This is the main thing. So if I were writing the cover letter, I would start instead and say, look, there are ongoing concerns that adolescents in this rural area in Kenya have one of the highest burdens of mental health disorders in the world. We did, to our knowledge, if you can say it, the first study of these adolescents, because your limitation here is that this is very narrow. Why do people care about what happens in Kenya? Unfortunately, the world's that way. Then say, we report this level that's been not seen anywhere else, just kind of punching to the higher impact journal that this is a quite extreme finding. Yeah. And it is saying you need to get the reviewer stamp. So again, I would start with this process of identifying the journal, identifying the reviewers, drafting your cover letter. You need to really connect more with editors on a level that's not just the logic of the research, but also that's emotional, that this is big, this is important. And ChatGPT just isn't that strong. Might get better, but it's just not there yet. So guys, those are our main do's and don'ts. So do identify gap, do write your outline with ChatGPT, do use it as your personal editor and editing assistant. Don't use it to write a first draft. Don't use it to find citations, and don't use it to try to get the submission side right. So with that, I'm going to spin back to you guys. Any questions? Do you think you could use some of this in your own work going forward? Putting some of you on the spot. Akechi, Tuyet, some of you who are here with us.
Okay. Thank you very much, Professor. I think, yes, going forward, I can use GPT better for my research. And this session was very helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, my pleasure. Again, that's what this is about. I mean, I do these live demonstration sessions because this is what you guys are asking for and what you say would be helpful to you. So, yep. Yeah, I know Pauline and Chief are here. You'll see that some of these steps that we go through together and we have training on, some of them ChatGPT is going through, working on for you. That said, you know, blindly relying, I think of it this way: if you rely on ChatGPT to find a gap for you, it's a bit like using a map. So I'm of the generation still where the town I grew up in, I know the streets inside and out. I can drive without a map. Where I'm now in Milan at the moment, if you ask me to drive somewhere, I've been living here a while. I don't know the roads. I can't drive there. I have to have the navigation on. And so if you blindly rely on ChatGPT, you're never going to get that skill on your own of how to identify. Okay, somebody's got to go on mute. I think that's well, guys, keep mute on. So yeah, you're never, it sounds like Ebo really agrees that it's bad if you don't get that skill. So yeah, I think you do need to get, I think at some stage in your research formation, you want to know how to do this, because as you can see, when you know how to do it yourself, you actually can more effectively guide ChatGPT to do this. So in those areas like the gap and using it as a check on your work, that's fine. But I still want you to do that work. The principle is you still need to do the original part of that work yourself, if that makes sense. So again, it should, if you've done it right, save you time, help improve your grammar, help improve your editing, help make sure you've left no stone unturned, you've got a tight outline, you've got a winning gap. But is it indispensable? No. Can it help you? Yes. All right, I think that we're getting to a good stopping point. Unless you guys have more questions or things, this is your chance to air everything you wanted to know about ChatGPT, but maybe we're too scared to ask. This is the moment. But if not, I'll be in touch in the DMs. I'm going to see if I can post a replay for those of you who are in our Facebook group. If you're not in our Facebook group, definitely do join right away, because that's how Handy and I and others here can link with you and get you the support that you need, so that you don't unnecessarily struggle and go through some of the hardship that I did when I was a grad student, and I didn't have the right kind of support that would have helped me a lot. Glad you liked it, Pauline. All right, everybody have a great day, and I will look forward to being in touch with several of you in the DM.